When I visited him as Secretary of Energy about 2 months ago, it was very different. He said, if we continue in business as usual, what we're doing to the environment will be catastrophic not only for China but for the entire world, number one. Number two, China's growth in use of coal, its growth in the carbon emissions is completely unsustainable. We have to do something about this. And for that reason, we're going to be developing nuclear, we're going to be developing renewables, we're going to be developing the suite that we need. And oh, by the way, although he didn't really emphasize this, they see their future economic prosperity is leading this new industrial revolution. And for that reason, their wind target by 2020 is 100 gigawatts. By 2020, they will be investing $88 billion to build the world's best ultra-high voltage AC and DC lines. They now have in operation a 1,000,000-volt AC line, the highest in the world. They're designing a 1,000,000-volt DC line. So why? Because their renewables are in the western part of China. They're sun and wind. And they have to be transported 2,000 kilometers to the east coast where the population centers are. And so they're investing serious money to do this. I asked the head of State Grid, the company, this costs a lot of money. And he said, well, it's true. And of course, nobody likes money taken out of their wallet. But we just have to tell them. We tell them how important this is for their future and the future of the environment. Oh, if it were so easy. So what we're doing, and what President Obama and the administration and Congress are doing, is that we are investing comparable amounts of money, $80 billion, a lot of it in energy efficiency, in renewable energies. We're creating jobs immediately. We could have spent this money on other things, but we think of it as a down payment in rebuilding the American infrastructure and allowing industries to get started so we become the leaders in this new industrial revolution. And so the Department of Energy, in addition to the usual average, my budget is about $26 billion a year, we were given an additional $38.7 billion, but they took $2 billion away, but we're trying to get it back. But in any case, additional money for these investments. And so it shows how serious the President and Congress is about this. Okay, so what do we do? How do we get where we need to go? Well, the first thing is we want to use energy more wisely. Here's one example. This brown curve is the average size of the American refrigerator. By the middle 1970s, the average size was 18 cubic feet. Now it's over 22 cubic feet, pretty large refrigerators. The good news is it's leveling off. The bad news is it's leveling off not because the American appetite's finally sated. It's the size of the kitchen door, not the American stomach. And so now, if in newer homes, they're building wider slots for the refrigerators. So there's always a technology solution. Now, during this time, the use of energy in refrigerators has gone down. It's now gone down by 75%. Even though the size per refrigerator has increased, the amount of energy used per refrigerator is down by 75%. What about the cost? When new regulations in California, it started in California, when new regulations were going to be put in place, the refrigerator manufacturers said, you can't do this. The American consumer can't afford this. There's no way this will be swallowed. And something remarkable happened during the first of the oil crises in California. Both the Republicans and Democrats got on board and they said, we're going to do this. Doesn't matter. And so all of a sudden, the lawyers and lobbyists had nothing more to do. They turned over the problem to the engineers, and the engineers got this remarkable improvement, and the inflation-adjusted cost of refrigerators went down by a factor of 2. And the reason it went down was because better insulating materials were developed. With a better insulated refrigerator, you use a smaller compressor, which is the dominant cost of the refrigerator. So energy efficiency does not have to cost money. It can save money as well as energy. Now, you say, well, that's just refrigerators. What's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal. If we use 1974 standards for refrigerators today, we will be using this amount of energy. But now we're only using this amount of energy. And so this is the amount of energy we save by regulations that actually promoted efficiency. This is all renewable solar, wind generation today in the United States. So refrigerators are saving more energy than all the renewable energy we're generating today. It is a very big deal. We use 40% of our energy in heating buildings, residential buildings, commercial buildings. We can make equally profound changes, 50%, 60, 70, 80% decrease in cost-effective buildings, investments that will pay for themselves. And so we've got to do this. Here's an example. If you live in a reasonably warm place, if you, instead of a dark tar roof, you put it in a white roof. This is Dallas, Texas. Now, some people think white roofs aren't pretty, so I got a picture of Santori, Greece, which I think is very pretty. And in this more southern, Rochester may be less so, but if you're in the lower half of the United States, a white or light-colored roof, and you can actually now buy roofs that reflect a lot of the infrared light back, have been known, it's reasonably well documented if you put on white roofs that you can decrease cooling bills by 10, 15, as much as 25%, just the air conditioning bills, which means less carbon in the atmosphere. But there's something else really important. The light-colored roofs actually reflect sunlight back into space. So instead of turning to heat, which is now trapped in Earth because of the greenhouse gas effect, you just reflect it back into space. So it's a very benign form of geoengineering. Because if you retrofitted all the urban roofs and went to not blacktop pavement, but cement-colored pavement, it's as if you would have changed the absorption of sunlight energy on the Earth, as if you have taken the billion automobiles around the world off the road for 11 years in terms of their carbon emission. So it saves money, air conditioning bills, and it saves a lot of other things. So, something to think about. On a more personal basis, it's possible to retrofit a home. You can borrow money, and in this case, this is a program in Boulder, Colorado, where you want to invest $15,000. You borrow that money, you pay it back into interest. But in this case, the amount of money you're paying back in the loan is actually less than the amount of money you're saving in lower energy bills. So this is something which is, and in this particular case, you're saving about $200 a year. So it becomes very important to try to figure out how to cover the upfront costs. Many Americans don't have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, but in a low interest loan. And so we're also trying to lower the cost of retrofitting, and a program we're just starting up. It's $400 million to check how we can do this. So I call it a kind of a neighborhood block party. You go to a block, and you go door to door, and you try to convince a third, half, two-thirds of the people to retrofit their homes. So then the energy auditor goes from door to door, just goes house to house to house. It's a reputable firm, certified, and then the thing that blows into the installation, the thing that does caulking, they just go bang, 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 house to house. So it becomes assembly line production. Hopefully it decrease the cost of retrofitting by a half, a third, two-thirds. Dramatically reduce the cost. And we're hoping to experiment to see if this really works, and there could even be some social pressure to say, get a little sticker that said, I'm a super energy efficient home, I'm saving the world. And we want to eliminate the barriers of retrofitting, the inconvenience, the lack of information, who do you trust, lack of financing. So this is one of the things we're doing. I'm talking with Sean Donovan, who's the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Now, HUD has run a program of energy efficient mortgages. We only get $1,000 a year. And so what we're trying to do is, when a property changes hands, banks often require a structural engineer's inspection. They require a termite inspection, because if you have termites, you could get a $10,000, $20,000 termite bill. Well, it's not that unusual that you can have a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 utility bill. And so it actually goes back to the affordability of a home. And so what we'd like to do is to ask, when you sell a house, that the utility company actually provide a year record from month to month of the amount of energy used in the house.